I'm here with President Tarja Halonen, the former president of Finland, who served 2 terms from 2000 to 2012, and who, I should note, was the first female head of state of Finland. She has also served as the Minister of Social Affairs and Health, the Minister of Justice, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and currently she works closely with the United Nations and is serving as a member of the Secretary General's High-Level Advisory Board on Mediation. She also is a UN Land Ambassador, a member of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty's group of eminent persons, and she works to promote issues related to sustainable development in several roles. And I promise you, that's just a taste of her resume. President Halonen, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Start by diving right into some questions for you. I'd like to start by noting that we're here in Stockholm on the 50th anniversary of the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment. That kicked off a new era of environmental cooperation among world nations. In your mind, what is the legacy of that conference, and how has the world done in addressing environmental problems?
I think that we have done, or our fellow citizens and those already before us, they have made a great work, but it's not enough. And so I think that our legacy, our duty, and our right is to continue so that we can save the planet. And this is not a small task, but we know that we know almost all necessary things. And I think that we have also committed, or most of us have already committed to this topic, but there is a lot of work, and many of our efforts have not been strong or effective enough.
Yeah. Well, speaking of those efforts and the conference, in 1972, then Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme,
yes.
Olof Palme called for, thank you for that, called for or invoked the term ecocide on the national stage. And I understand you support an ecocide crime. Can you tell us about that? Why do you support that?
I think that this is a very logical way to act, because I think quite many people know the word genocide. And they think that we should all collect our powers together, efforts together, in order to avoid such kind of the crimes, but also when it happens, we should also punish so that everybody knows that this is a crime. But it's not enough that we speak only genocide, because this planet is the home for people, also flora, fauna, all this planet itself. And if we are acting like we have done so far, demolishing all this both the soil and the air and the water and so on, so that will be ecocide. And we know already from 2015 that we have committed all together to do everything possible, not only to help the situation to be like it is today, but to do it better. And that's why I think that we can use the positive efforts to tell that what could be done if we do it well, but we should also punish those who want to be against, who want to do the crimes against us and the planet. And so this is a very normal system. I mean, in all human societies, we have the criminal law, because we know that not all people behave well. And then we have also the positive efforts. We say that how we should live together. And I think that this is exactly the same. It's a logical continuation.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're saying ecocide, it will complement and work together with other efforts on the environment.
Yes. because the criminal law is just the last moment. But I think that we all think that even when we are speaking with each other, we think that we don't think all the time the criminal law. We think how to behave.
Yeah.
And this is even more than what's illegal. We want to do the good things. We try to avoid the bad things. But the limit is then that we know that there are also the penal code which says that no, not.
Yes, yes. Yeah, yeah. It almost like subconsciously, criminal law, it shapes our behavior.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the last point, the last border.
Yeah, yeah. So to create an international ecocide law would create or would require a lot of cooperation among nations. And when I look around the world, we look around the world, nationalism is on the rise, populism is on the rise, Russia has invaded Ukraine. There are lots of reasons to doubt multilateralism and what it can do. And I mean, what do you think about that? Is there still space in the world for cooperation to get things done?
So I would say in the opposite way, perhaps, that I would say that in such kind of the quite terrible situation, so why not do now to say that open your eyes and to see that what happens if we don't respect the human rights, if we don't respect the rights of the nature, and that should also encourage us to make stronger efforts to stop this. Of course, somebody might say that we have so many small problems and still terrible problems that we solve this first, and then afterwards, when we have the better time, we will take this ecocide system. So no, please. Yeah. Especially we Europeans, also the Americans, I think we should learn to solve many problems at the same time. In many countries of this world, they have been in such kind of the situation all the time. They have become a multitask people to solve the issues. You cannot just choose one or another issue, but you have to be able to make many tasks at the same time. Yeah. But basically, the most serious thing is that this is in the way, this is a silent disaster, or mainly silent disaster, that you have to notice it. Otherwise, you will see it just you don't see the war, you see just the fights. Yeah. And of course, the Mother Nature has tried to cry to us that now this is a problem, that is the problem, and so on. And so we should see that what is behind, that this is not just a terrible disorder, this is a mess. Yeah. And that's why we should work now more effectively and to say that this is one of the basic issues we have to solve.
Yeah, yeah. And I should note, I mean, you were president of Finland when the 9/11 attacks happened. Yes. In the United States. You know a thing or two about managing different crises.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And I know also that it easily happens with our, let's say, the democratic media, which want to be very, very fast. And how do you create the news for the evening in 3.5 minutes, what you can put in that? Yeah. And so it's very easily happens that we have only one issue at a time. Yeah. And we don't see that we have several issues which might be even connected to each other. Yeah. And so we have to help the people to see not only the pieces, but the holistic picture.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do want to ask about something that I think is near and dear to you. You've broken a number of glass ceilings, as we say in the United States. And it's important to you that women are included in environmental governance. Why is that?
whoa, the women are the 50% of the population of this planet. I would be, it's terrible waste if we don't use the 100%. By speaking about the women and girls so much, it doesn't mean that I don't respect boys and men. Of course, they make our life very interesting, sometimes challenging, but they are really, I mean, 100% human beings. Yeah. But because women and girls are underrepresented and they are depressed in most of the societies, so it's respecting the human rights, but also using all resources of our humankind by I'm speaking for them. And I even think that the boys and men, they will also get the benefit for that, because at the same time when women have been limited with their resources, also the profile of the men has been copied to that. Yeah. But by more equal system, also the boys and men will get more variety for their profiles, and the whole society will win.
Yeah, yeah. Is it also true that, I mean, women are affected by environmental problems in different ways, and maybe not where I come from in the United States, but in other places around the world?
Also there sometimes.
Also, yes.
Okay,
yes.
Let's open our eyes.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And say more about that, please.
Yeah, I think that we very easily we see the position, the situation of the women in developing countries more clearly, because we see that they are very often in the informal sector of the society. They have not a legal position. Yeah. In working life, we can see also that, for instance, they are responsible for feeding the local population with agriculture in the deep south, and still they have not same kind of rights. Or, for instance, even in UN or in other development programs, we don't consider that they are owners or they are the real farmers there. Yeah. And we should change all of that. We might see also that the family violence is very, very bad issue, and many other issues. Perhaps now, I think that with the collapse of Afghanistan, we saw also that how the right to the education was not very strong one. Yeah. When the regime was changed and so. But if we take also the northern part of the globe, so women are those who mainly make the consumer decisions in the families, and they are those who could also get more voice in at the decision tables. When they see the consequences, they make the local decisions, and in that way they could be much stronger voice for the justified system. And so in that way, I think that we should see also all the levels in our own societies. Yeah. And that's why I took this, that USA, Finland, Europe.
Oh, I'm glad you did. Yeah. I'm glad you did. I think, sometimes we're not, the things that are closest to us, we don't see.
We become, as we say, home blind in a way. And now I think that COVID-19 has shown us very easily that how big part of our societies has been in the hands of the women, and are in the hands of the women. They are nurses, they are doctors of medicine, they are the teachers mainly. They are also with the issues of the social politics, social workers, and so, and the primary care, which is very often unpaid, informal caring in the families. So that's in the hands of the women. Yeah. Of course, the younger generation of the men are better, but I mean that we cannot just wait for the better future.
Yes. Yeah. Well, they call it the invisible workload for women. Pivoting a little bit, there's been a longstanding recognition that developing countries are the least responsible for global environmental problems. Many times they have the least capacity to adapt to those problems. And rich countries have failed in their promise to pay for developing countries to transition and to adapt to these crises. I know that Vanuatu, which is a low-lying island state, highly affected by climate change, has come out in support of Ecocide. It's also looking to the law in other ways. One way is it wants the International Court of Justice to issue an advisory opinion on climate change. I wanted to ask you about that, if you think, I mean, we should be looking to the law in different ways, as Vanuatu is, to address environmental problems, or are there limits to what the law can do? Is it politics?
Both and, because sometimes people are complaining that politicians just speak.
Yeah.
But I think that the role of the politicians is to speak and also to make decisions. But the lacking good governance, lacking the rule of law, makes much more difficult to change the path from the political speech and decisions to practical life, so that the people really can enjoy the results. And so I think that that's why we should pay attention much more for the rule of law, like we say in Europe, in German, Rechtsstaat, which underlies more the importance of the state. Yeah. And the truth is, when you spoke about the populism and nationalism, that of course, generally taken, the nation state is the biggest biggest entity where the people can have a direct power now. Of course, we have the European Union, we have some other regional organizations, and they might have also the elections, but mainly it's nation states. And even United Nations is the organization of the member states where the representative of the national governments are acting in UN, and of course by their civil servants and so. And that's why I think that paying a little bit more attention to that side, the others than we lawyers, could help also everybody else. I think that legislation in the nation state very important, but I speak even for the bigger frames. I speak that rule-based international society is very important for all of us. And I think that especially when we come to the environmental issues, they don't respect the borders. And that's why we should get also the larger cooperation than just the nation state. And that, I think, speaks also on behalf of some international courts, different type of the court system, or the other issues like that, in order to help these planetarian activities.
Yeah.
And in the matter of fact, I think that in many other sites we have done it already, and now the nature waits to get the same rights.
Yes. So rights of nature, is that what you're talking about? That is an issue that I covered at InsideClimate News, and it is something that's taken off. It's within the United States, it's local communities who are recognizing the rights of nature, and in the United States we have a federalist system where we have it's state governments are preempting those efforts. And so I think it's interesting. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying that we put emphasis sort of on what happens at the national level, but much more important is this bigger conversation at the international level?
Yeah, in a way it's both sides.
Okay.
The national level is very important still because this is the acting system. But then we should see above that this regional system, international system, but also when you mention the local level, this is very important.
Yeah.
A major part almost. These actions what we need, for instance, cities, and so the let's say the waste system, for instance.
Yeah.
So this is in the hands of the local decision makers.
Yeah.
So for both of us, we should see the whole scale. But of course, sometimes it's much easier that we also speak about one item after another, so that we see. But don't forget the entity. It's like the climate issue that we are speaking about the climate. That's very fine, but we shouldn't forget that the soil, the Mother Earth, is as important, or the oceans for these all climate issues. So when the human beings are so holistic, so we should now be holistic also in this issue.
So it's funny, speaking of the rights of nature, I'm going to use that to segue to another question. A court in India, it was a state court, recognized the rights of nature, and the judge writing the opinion criticized sustainable development, which is something I want to ask you about. She called it sustainable destruction. And I was just wondering, I mean, is that fair? Is that a fair criticism? Because, I mean, lots of work has gone into sustainable development, and I mean, arguably it's achieved some wonderful results. But I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So I think that we have done quite a lot. I remember when we had a millennium goals, and so I was, because Finland was one of the countries to be responsible for the General Assembly of UN. Namibia was the southern one, and so I was became a president of Finland, and so I had an honor to work as in the chairmanship, and so especially the developing countries were so happy about this first global solidarity declaration and acts on that. And we worked very much with that, with our Monterey financing systems and many other things. I don't say that we didn't I say that of course we didn't success everything, but we did quite a lot. And then when we started to prepare the Agenda 2030 for the sustainable development, so many deep southern countries, they were not very pleased because they thought that now again the industrialized countries try to avoid the credits that what they should pay for this historical injustice what we have done. So they were not very eager, but then with the work of the years, so we also convinced them that there is no idea to just to speak about the solidarity between people if the planet is not existing in good shape. And I think that because of this, still the number one of the goals is poverty and the hunger. They are still there. They are directly from the Millennium Goals, because we cannot forget these parts, but we have to remember that nature is also at the table.
It's part of that.
Within
the context of sustainable development, this is an assumption that I'll make, but many people in the United States, regular people, not people in Washington, D.C., don't have a great understanding of the concept of sustainable development. Can you say a little bit just about the background of what sustainable development is, and I mean why you're doing so much work on it?
Because I think that we see the consequences. The people in USA or in Finland or in Russia, they see the consequences. They see when the rivers are spoiled. They see if the oceans are not giving as much fish as earlier. They can smell the air that it's not always in good condition. People in China avoid to be outside in certain time of the year in the winter time.
Yeah.
And so we see the consequences, but then we should also to tell to the people why it is so. It's not a natural system, it's the system of the nature what we have spoiled. Of course, I don't mean that the nature itself is always nice and sunshine and only rain in the night time. But I mean that we have also shaped the balance. And so I think that one of the tasks of the NGOs is to tell to the people what is the connection between the issues, and also to tell what is their own rights and duties. And then we come, for instance, the food production and what is our ways to eat. So I mean that we have the healthy and sustainable ways of dieting, and it's even, I would put always when I'm speaking and working with the UNCCD, which is for this organization of UN, which is working especially for the dry land. So I say that it's also the tasty diet, that if you do it in sustainable way, it's healthy, but it's also tasty, it's delicious. I mean that it doesn't mean that you cannot enjoy of the food, but you should see that what you eat, how it has been produced, and you can help. The consumer's voice is also very important. It's not the only force, but we can help it. And I think that with that, people will understand. They are interested in the health of their children and their family members. They might also think that what means aging, that aging doesn't mean all those difficulties what we have today, that some of these are part of our own behavior and part of the environmental issues and so on. So I mean that we have to continue for the lifelong learning of the people, but also to help to use their language so that they understand it. Because people are quite smart. I mean, it's not a question that they are stupid. It's a question that we use the language which is not seriously meant to be understood. Understood. So.
Yes. Thank you for that.
No, so I start preaching, okay?
No, it's fabulous. I want to ask about your home country, about Finland, because it has, I mean, a lot of people say that it punches above its weight on environmental issues. And what is it about Finland that, I mean, that has made it sort of a leader in the environmental space?
If I say so that you cannot change your geopolitical or the geographical position, you can just approach it in the correct way. I don't mean now the Ukrainian war, which is of course made us very, very, very worried and also activate for the solidarity. But we live in the north. We have a large country. We have only 5.5 million population. So we have long distances. We better heat to our houses in winter time, and so that's it. But also our industry has been quite energy dominated, because we have had a forestry and we have had all these possibilities, and now we have to see that whether the price we have paid for that is ecologically also correct. And so we have now invested quite much concerning the energy issues. We have done our best also concerning the water system. Waste system is very well organized already. We are good in circular economy. For instance, in Finland we are reusing all the bottles. And we have a good system how to do it. We have other systems also. We are, I know that as a Finn I should be very modest and never tell that how good we are. But anyway, so we are pretty good anyway in circular economy.
Yeah.
But in logistics, in traffic, we have still a lot to do.
Yeah.
And also concerning our industry. In energy, we are the second in the renewable energy in Europe, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
We thought so that we had to use also nuclear energy, which is today concerned sustainable, but as a good grandmother, I feel very, very bad conscience that it will be generations forward when they have to look after the waste.
Yeah.
But okay, it's now some time of, how could I say it, getting a little bit more time to solve the issues. But we use windmills, we use all such kind of things. But we should also help the others to see that what is the question of the oil and gas, not even to speak about the charcoal. We should see the path, but we should see also the steps, how to get rid of this. I think that with good governance, we are in good position. We are not saints, but the system is so open that we hardly have a corruption. And we have made quite a lot with gender equality. But good to remind, the gender equality and the powerful women like our Prime Minister and the 5 female political leaders of the government, they have done a very good work. But we still have the gender-based violence in the country. So you can make the stronger women, they survive better, you have the system how to do that, but you cannot forget that the violence is bad thing.
Yeah. Are there?
That's it in very short. But come and visit.
Yes, I would love to.
Yeah, very welcome.
Not just Helsinki, but
you should see the whole country,
Yeah,
because Helsinki is just in the most southern corner.
Yeah. So, I mean, Finland is right next to Russia.
Yeah.
And Russia's invasion of Ukraine has triggered an uproar in the energy markets. I know that in America, a lot of people are feeling the pressure of energy prices, and they feel that, and they want to put a stop to anything that would cut back on production of gas and oil, or they fear that taking action on the environment will cause further price spikes. And so I just want to ask, I mean, what do you say to folks who have those concerns?
We all have this concern, and we know that the life will become much more expensive. And we know also that we have always spoken about the social inclusion. We have spoken about to be fair in this sense. But we know that even in Ukrainian war, and also the consequences of the war, not only for Ukrainians but for the others, will be the worst for those who are already in the most vulnerable situation. And that's why I think that we should see that, for instance, in this energy issue, that such kind of things can happen also in the future. And so we should be try to be more skillful to avoiding this kind of the system, and the renewable energy, and of course saving energy, and also all these kind of things are also a certain type of the insurance for the future. And I think that also your people in USA will say that, of course, you have the insurances, too much private, but anyway, you have the insurances. What's idea is to help you in a case. We don't say that it will happen, but in a case. And so I think that that's exactly the same concern in the energy, that we should be grown-up people in that sense, and to say that these ties to the fossils are, with the wars, without the wars, it's a dangerous business.
On a more personal note, I'd like to ask you about your career. As I mentioned before, you've broken glass ceilings, as we say in the U.S.
Had to.
Had to.
Yeah, had to.
And I mean, what aspect of your career, the various roles you've had, what has meant the most to you?
I think that my parents thought that whether you are a boy or girl, that you have had the same education.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared to look after your own living,
Yeah.
but also the living of your family members. So they didn't make any difference on that.
Yeah.
They thought, I think it's partly because they knew it already from the history. But I think that's the first base. Education and the equality and the rights and duties.
Yeah.
And then later on with my teachers at school, they didn't say that because of your gender, because you are a girl. They took it as in the similar. In working life, a good lesson for me was when I was a union lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 10 years a union lawyer, and even my parents were the activists in the unions, so they were not that close to my own life. And then as a lawyer, I noticed also the weak points of the legislation, the weak points of the collective agreements, and what to do that they could be better.
Mm-hmm.
And that I have kept in my mind. Ordinary life, ordinary people, and that's what we should feel the solidarity. I think this is important. And when we have now very rapidly changing labor markets, try to avoid the same mistakes we have done in the past, because with the new IT technology, with the new green jobs and all that, they are not also human for the people. Even we have thought that this is now the green solutions. We should think always also people in the working places, how they feel it, homes and all these connections.
Yeah.
But isn't it also lovely to see all this spectrum? I mean that the life is only one point. It's not black and white, it's the whole variety of colors and a whole variety of different kind of the roles we have in the society.
Yeah. Holistic.
Yeah.
Holistic. And one last question, if that's okay. What advice would you have for young people?
Be brave.
Be brave.
Be brave. Be brave. And so I think that and honest. So work hard and believe on your dreams. I take an example story to you. How could I say? The young people very often they like to ask me to come and discuss with them, and then they start thinking that what happens not only to 2030 but 2050, and so they thought that what to do, and so and then they asked me also what I will do in 2050. And I was born in 1943. Yeah. I said, I don't know, I think I will see it from the clouds already. They said, please don't take it like that, people live longer. And then I said that I will be so much already over 100 years that perhaps I'm not with you. So learn to be with yourself. Yeah. Be the elderly generation with all our mistakes and the good things. We are not always with you. Yeah. The world is yours. And that's good to remember.
Well, on that note, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
And good luck for and a lot of work together, cooperation for the Ecocide issue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. President Halonen. All right. Thank you.